For nearly 20 years, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were upheld as the ultimate Hollywood meets Nashville love story. An Academy Award-winning actress and a country superstar who seemed to conquer every obstacle placed before them. To the world, they were the golden couple who blended glamour, devotion, and resilience. But behind the red carpets, romantic duets, and perfectly staged smiles, the truth was far more fragile. Newly surfaced court filings now confirm that Nicole Kidman officially filed for divorce after 19 years of marriage, documents that hint she fought long and hard to keep the relationship alive. Then Keith Urban's first public performance after the filing stunned audiences. He stood on stage without his wedding ring, removed every love song tied to Nicole from the setlist, and even changed lyrics in a way that clearly pointed to bitterness. The flawless facade that had surrounded their marriage for nearly 2 decades shattered instantly. After years of silence, her side of the story is beginning to emerge, revealing what made them so beloved, and what ultimately tore them apart. Nicole Kidman was not always the confident, commanding screen presence the world knows today. Born in Honolulu in 1967 to Australian parents, she returned to Sydney as a young child and grew up in an academically driven household. Her father, a biochemist and psychologist, and her mother, a nurse and educator, instilled discipline and ambition in their daughters. Yet, the Nicole of her early years was intensely shy. She flushed red when teachers called on her, and classmates remembered her as the quiet girl who often hid behind her hair. That shyness, however, masked a rich interior world. She found comfort in movement, first through ballet, later through acting classes, where she learned to express the emotions she struggled to voice in daily life. By her teens, casting directors were already noticing her rare emotional depth. As Australia's film and TV industry expanded in the 1980s, Nicole stepped directly into its spotlight, landing roles that showcased her natural intensity. Her breakout into Hollywood followed soon after, and it was during this meteoric rise that she met Tom Cruise, a relationship that would transform her life in ways she rarely speaks about publicly. When she married Cruise in 1990, she became part of one of Hollywood's most powerful couples. But the marriage brought a level of surveillance and pressure she had never experienced. The influence of Scientology, which guided many aspects of Tom's life, cast long shadows over theirs. When their marriage collapsed in 2001, Nicole emerged not only heartbroken but deeply wounded. The most painful consequence was her limited access to their 2 adopted children, Isabella and Connor, who remained within Cruise's religious world. Friends later disclosed that Nicole felt stripped of her identity as a mother, as if she'd lost an essential piece of herself. That trauma shaped her priorities in the years that followed. When she eventually crossed paths with Keith Urban, she was determined to rebuild family, love, and security, things she felt had been taken from her. Keith Urban's early life was different in almost every way. Born the same year as Nicole, but in New Zealand before moving to Queensland, Australia, Keith grew up in a household defined by financial strain and emotional unpredictability. His father, who ran a convenience store, also had a deep love for American country music and encouraged Keith to pick up a guitar when he was barely old enough to hold one. By 6, he was performing on stage. Country music was both an escape and an expression for him, something he clung to amid the stress of his upbringing. But while his talent flourished, so did restlessness. He dropped out of school to chase music full-time, convinced that performing was his only path forward. Fame eventually arrived. But instead of stabilizing him, it magnified every insecurity. Alcohol and harmful substances became his coping mechanisms. By the time he became a breakout sensation in Nashville in the late 1990s, Keith was already battling demons he couldn't fully control. When Nicole and Keith finally met, their worlds appeared incompatible. She represented grace, discipline, and prestige. He embodied volatility, passion, and a rock-tinged wildness. But beneath those contrasts lay a shared vulnerability, 2 people shaped by heartbreak, longing, and unresolved wounds. She yearned for a stable family, something she had lost with Tom Cruise. He longed for someone who could steady him, someone who could anchor him when his addictions pushed him close to the edge. In hindsight, it is impossible to miss the tension built into the foundation of their relationship, her desire for order clashing with his chaotic impulses, his need for freedom rubbing against her need for structure. Yet, those opposite forces also attracted them, intensely. Their first meeting took place at the Day USA event in early 2005, where they were introduced briefly. Nicole later admitted she didn't think he was interested because he didn't call her for months. But when he finally reached out, the connection deepened quickly. Within weeks they were inseparable, and by the end of the year, she described him as the man she had been waiting for. To her, Keith represented liberation, a raw, passionate alternative to the control she once felt. To him, Nicole represented stability and a kind of elegance he had never known. Their whirlwind romance captivated both Hollywood and Nashville, and in June 2006, they were married in an emotional ceremony in Sydney. Pictures of their candlelit wedding painted the perfect fairy tale, the reformed bad boy and the woman who had survived heartbreak finding peace together. But reality, as always, was messier. Just 4 months after the wedding, Keith checked himself into rehab, a relapse that blindsided Nicole. Instead of condemnation, she responded with unwavering loyalty, visiting him frequently and refusing to let the world see her pain. He later credited her with saving his life, but those close to them say the dynamic established during this period, Nicole as caretaker, Keith as someone who needed saving, would echo throughout the marriage. Still, they pushed forward, constructing a public image built on devotion and resilience. She balanced movies ranging from sweeping epics to intimate dramas, while he climbed the ranks of country music, collecting Grammys and headlining world tours. To the public, they were affectionate, united, and endlessly supportive. Behind the scenes, the cracks grew deeper. Their careers demanded long separations. Nicole, deeply affected by losing access to her older children during her first marriage, desperately wanted stability for the daughters she later had with Keith, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret. She structured their home life tightly to protect them from Hollywood chaos. Keith, though devoted, struggled with the restraints of domestic life, especially as touring kept him constantly on the move. His lifelong battle with sobriety remained an undercurrent, one that Nicole monitored closely, not out of mistrust but fear of losing another family. Yet her vigilance, while born from love, sometimes felt suffocating to him, especially as he tried to prove he could stand on his own. Through the 2010s, they maintained their image as the couple who overcame everything. Appearances grew more polished, interviews more carefully worded. But while fans saw passion, insiders noticed weariness. Nicole grew tired of carrying the emotional burden. Keith grew frustrated at feeling scrutinized. Their differences, her need for order, his instinct for spontaneity, never fully aligned.